Welcome to this edition of Sojourners Along the Way. I know I say this a lot, but I was thinking about it. If I am not excited about a program, then I probably shouldn't be doing it. But I am super excited about this program because of who my guest is. My guest is a gal by the name of Alison. Alison, welcome to Sojourners Along the Way. And as you can see, Alison is kind of in the teenage bracket, and she is a high schooler at Athens High School, and the reason that she is here is to do part of a science project, which I'm very excited about. So, Alison, I'd like you to give us an introduction. I know very little bit about Alison. I know she's a teenager, I know she's a high school student, and I know this is part of your science project. So would you elaborate upon all that, please?
Well, I was assigned a science project in which we had to have 2 actions that directly affect the environment in the positive. So we had free reign over what we wanted to pick as our main topic, and I've always been interested in the idea of a bio urn. And a bio urn is when, after you've passed, you're cremated and your ashes are placed into a special urn that is then planted into the ground, and a tree is grown to mark the place of resting compared to a typical burial in a coffin and a gravestone. I was very interested in learning about this, and I thought that it would be a great way, that raising awareness would be a great project. So my 2 actions were I made some pamphlets that are going to be available at the Athens Library and the Plains Library May 1st. And this is my other action. I'm raising awareness on a televised program.
And I'm going to interject. I want you to see, this is absolutely beautiful. This is the pamphlet that Alison made for her science project, and it's a trifold. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I applaud you. You're very artistic. So it has a lot of information on it, and she also gave a disclaimer, which I'm going to read. Disclaimer. This pamphlet was made for a 10th grade science project by a dedicated student committed to helping the environment. Please use actual Bio Urn websites to guarantee if the Bio Urn is right for you. Thank you. That's tremendous. You're very, very, very creative, and I love the colors. So I don't know if you photoshopped anything, but I imagine, well, I don't know. Did you have to Photoshop this part or no?
Yes, I had to make it a collage in Google Docs.
Okay, so that shows her creativity. It shows that she is definitely computer savvy, and I applaud that. I'm glad to see that kind of work being done. Now, something that I want to put in for a plug. One, they didn't call it a bio urn. And this isn't a happy story, but a friend's daughter passed away. They knew that she would because of the medical conditions that she was dealing with, but she decided what she wanted to do fits right into your project, okay? She decided that she would be cremated and that her ashes would be mixed in with the soil, and that people that attended her memorial service would be given a small sapling to plant wherever they wanted to, in their yards or fields, whatever. And I thought, I like that. In addition to that, and this is the question I was trying to ask your mom, I am a body donor. Now, I don't know that you know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I figured Ohio University has gotten all my money, so they may as well get my body too. And I know they cremate it. I tried to find out if, after a body has been used for the medical teaching, you know, because I don't know whether they use chemicals or something like that, and if those chemicals would not be good for, growing a tree. So once I find that out, I may go from being a body donor to asking, yes, I want to do this. Because I originally was going to ask my family, just spread my ashes all over. I've lived in 4 different states, worked in 2 other countries, so you can just scatter them to the wind and that'll be fine with me. But I really like this idea a lot, and I applaud you for doing this project. And by the way, I started out as a body donor, organ donor. But after hearing somebody's poem who wrote about a body donor, I thought, I can do that. So, audience, I want to challenge you. Listen carefully. Yes, she's a teenager, but you know what? Some teenagers are pretty smart, and they know what they're talking about. She has done her research, and she knows what she's talking about. Plus, the information you're going to be given today, you may see that there's a lot of wisdom, and it will help not just our environment, but beyond the environment too. So, Alison, take it away.
Well,
you want me to ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the project. What were the parameters of the project, please?
Well, like I said, we just had to pick 2 actions that would directly affect the environment after getting inspiration from the Racing Extinction video, which is a wonderful video about...
Yeah, tell us about that. I never heard of it.
Well, it's a documentary about how many animals are going extinct at such an increased rate than it has ever been before. I believe the statistics were in less than 20 years, 50% of all amphibian species will be extinct. And in less than 100 years, 50% of all animal species in general will be extinct.
That's terrible.
It was shocking. I was horrified to sit, in my classroom and learn about such a bleak future. And I immediately wanted to jump in doing whatever it takes to help as well.
And
so, one of the ways and you might not think that the Bio Urn would help with animal extinctions, but a big problem is things like deforestation. And we're running out of space for our cemeteries because, as populations increase, so does death rates. And we're running out of space to bury our dead. So what happens? They clear more forests, and they level more forests, and they ruin more habitats for more and more species of birds, of small woodland animals like squirrels, and they're running out of homes, and we're putting embalming chemicals back into the ground instead of adding better things with the leveled ground.
Think about that. Now, do you have one of the posters? Alison has 3 posters. You can't see them until she shows them to you. But isn't that one of the Oh.
I do have a poster, and
Okay.
it says, imagine a world on the front, and it has a picture of a cemetery in Brooklyn, New York, that is just fields of gravestones, and it's an empty field
Let me have it.
with just, you can see in the background there's big skyscrapers, and it's just a massive plot of land that could have been and was, green and forests and vegetation that they had to clear.
I'm going to hold this up so it can be seen on camera, because at first, when I first looked at this, I thought this was a city, and that all of this, because I wasn't looking at it very carefully, but I thought they were all buildings. Wrong. That's a cemetery. That's a huge cemetery. Where is this?
That's Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn, New York. That may be a cemetery where one of my parents is buried. I don't know. Okay, now look at the difference. You compare this picture to this picture.
And the second picture is what our cemeteries could look like if almost everyone had a bio urn, where instead of, where you give back to the carbon cycle and you add more vegetation to the lands that were cleared for cemeteries instead.
Now, do you know about the carbon cycle? Is that something you can explain to us?
Well, as bodies decompose, their nutrients go back into the ground and they become like fossil fuels, which is, energy. So when you add that to the cycle of, unfortunately, humans taking them out again to put them in factories to power our things, and then that is released back into the atmosphere, and then that can be collected by clouds and then rained, and just a whole cycle. But the problem is the bodies that we're putting into the ground are being embalmed, which means that they do not decompose to become fossil fuels. So there's even an example, like the embalming process is when blood is drained from a body completely and chemicals are reintroduced to add color back to the corpse and to make it appear to be, living and maybe asleep. The problem with embalming is the chemicals that are added include like formaldehyde and methanol, and while those things might not be terrible for the environment by themselves, if they make their way into like the aquatic life and stuff, they're very toxic for fish. And the bodies that are embalmed do not decompose basically almost at all. They can take up to 30 to 40, even more years, especially with the type of coffin that is used. There is one example of the embalming process just never decomposing a corpse is there was a little girl who passed away about 100 years ago. She was 2 years old. And she was one of the last people to be buried at the Catacomb dei Cupiccini in Palermo, Sicily, Italy. She was buried, 100 years ago, but she was embalmed. So her name is Rosalia Lombardo, and she died of pneumonia. She is in a glass coffin on display because 100 years later, her body is perfectly intact. Her hair is the same, her bow is the same, her features are, she could be asleep. Which, there's a lot of consequences to something like that, like even mental consequences, because it's very hard to look at. I didn't include any posters or pictures of her on any of my posters because I felt it was almost too upsetting to see that.
But that's amazing. I mean, think about it, 100-year-old corpse, and it hasn't decomposed yet. I'm going to liken that to something that I heard of. This was a science experiment. I don't remember what high school it was, but they have Twinkies. They were not embalmed, okay? But as this science experiment, they took the Twinkies and set them out to see how long it would take for them to decompose. You know how long that experiment's been going on? Listen carefully, audience. No idea? You want to take a guess?
Well, I've heard of experiments similar with like fast food.
Okay.
And I almost feel like they never decompose.
Okay. We can't say never because obviously never is still going on. But this experiment has been going on for 40 years. That's 40. Twinkies did not decompose after 40 years. Add to that something else that I have heard. Sad part, it is from the Vietnam War. After it was over, they went back in and found our guys had not decomposed. They had not been embalmed. They had died in the field. They were being gathered so that way they could be given a formal funeral and burial. They had not decomposed. So bodies that are being embalmed for the reasons that Alison has said, how much space? How much space do we have in this world? And how much do we want it to be taken up by a cemetery? I want to honor the death, okay, of our loved ones. I do. But I also want to be future thinking. That's why I said I applaud you. You are way ahead of your time in thinking of, okay, we know we all live and we all die. But afterwards, what should we do? And how can we help the environment? Hi, I'm interrupting this program with Allie for a moment. I did ask her permission and she agreed, but I wanted to give you some information. First, I'm responsible for an hour-long program, and the program with Allie didn't quite cover enough time. So this is an addition to it, a very positive one, and it's a plea from me. I have mentioned before in other programs and did a program on donating blood where you could see me actually donating the blood. I want to encourage you, please consider donating blood. The United States of America has a continuing need for donors. Please check with the American Red Cross. Don't disqualify yourself without finding out for sure whether you can or cannot, and you probably would be surprised that you are able to donate. It's very easy, it really is. All you do is go in, stick out your, well, before you stick out your arm, they do ask you a bunch of questions, but the easy part is you stick out your arm, they stick you, yes, that does pinch a little bit, but come on, you're braver than that, you can handle it. And then you just lay there and your blood is collected, and the neat part about it is one donation, one person donating one time can save 3 lives. How would you like to know that you can do something that doesn't take a long time, depending upon how fast your blood flows, and mine happens to do that rather quickly. So I'm usually done, I've never timed it, but I would say it's probably less than 15 minutes that it takes for me to go through the process of donating a pint of blood. But 3 people's lives can be saved. That's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. I hope you will try it. So what question should I ask you now? I thought you have done a lot of research. I don't think there are that many people your age. Is it okay if I call you a kid?
Sure, go ahead.
I don't think there are too many kids that know how bodies are embalmed. So you go for it, gal. But you said, could culture have any effect on burial traditions, and if someone would choose a bio urn? I hope that at the end of this program you're going to say, the audience, you already did, I already am, that our audience will say, yeah, I have to check into that bio urn. And remember, these brochures are available at the county libraries. I'm encouraging them. Arrangements have already been made for Athens County Library. I'm hoping that they can be placed in other places also, other libraries. Okay? And if the library that you're closest to doesn't have it, then you tell them you saw this program and you want to learn about the bio urns that Alison from Athens High School did, and you want your libraries to have them too. Okay? Okay. And she didn't know I was going to do that. So, how can cultures affect what's going on?
Well, cultures, there are big cultural differences in how bodies are buried is a big factor on if someone would choose to have the bio urn for themselves or their loved ones. So an example would be in Latin America, you know, finances are a big issue, and because they don't embalm their bodies. In fact, they have family graves. There are many small villages that have family graves that once someone passes, they're buried within 24 hours. There's a wake and then they're buried. Then, and then someone in the family dies after that, the body that was previously buried is dug up, and their bodies are put in a special box, which is put on a very tall wall somewhere in the village. So the they have their difference is when they make room for their dead people, they are actually removing the graves, which is something that in like more Western countries like America, that would be horrific for us to dig up our deceased. Like that's not something we condone at all. And you know, catacombs even in older countries like Czech Republic, you know, Egypt, and Sicily, they use catacombs for their dead sometimes. India, on the other hand, they have a lot of cremating due to there's no space. The population in India is extremely condensed, and in Asian countries, you see more cremating than burial in the traditional sense that we here in America would think of it as.
Now, when I think of a funeral, I also see dollar signs. Mm-hmm. So would you like to tell us a little bit about what you found out of a typical burial and how much it does cost?
Yes, so here in America, a common coffin could be $2,000 and up, and that's usually made of materials like plastic, which is terrible for the environment for obvious reasons, wood, which is made from trees that had to be cut down, and you know, cheaper metals, which are taking out, you know, once again, fossil fuels from our environment. You know, and fancy coffins could be $10,000 or more, and they can be made of things like bronze and mahogany. And tombstones will also cost a lot of money. They can be anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 and up, versus compared to, you know, cremation, which is around $1,000. And the bio urns, there's two companies I've been looking at, and one of them is the Living Urn Company. And they offer their product for $119 plus a sapling or a seed or whatever you would want for your bio urn, because they have their own nursery. But you can also get, you know, a tree anywhere else, or a plant if there is a certain, you know, fern or bush that your loved one or yourself are really proud of, and they want to add it as something from them into the bio urn. That can be done too. And the other company is called Urn Bios, and they offer two variations of the bio urn. One is the typical bio urn, which ashes are placed, dirt, nutrient-rich soil is placed, and then the seed, and then the whole thing is buried. But they also offer another version, which is a Bio Urn Cube, which stands, you know, probably 4 feet off the ground. It's in a really classy ceramic casing, and the seed ashes are in the bottom again, and seed is placed on top, and it'll give you text alerts if it's too warm in the room, or if it's too cold, or if it needs more water, and so to ensure that the seed grows, which is more expensive. I believe that one's $500 to $600, but it costs so little for a bio urn compared to a coffin. And even if you wanted a plaque or something to place on the ground or near the tree or something, it'd be much less than, you know, a $1,000 to $10,000 tombstone to put in the ground.
I have to stop her because so many thoughts are going through my head. First, Mrs. McAfee, and Mrs. McAfee is Alison's teacher, who is the one that directed the students to do this particular project. So on behalf of all teachers, Mrs. McAfee, how would you like it if, instead of people spending up to $10,000 for all of one funeral, they said, I'm going to donate that money to the high schools so they can buy all kinds of science equipment, textbooks, and other supplies. I want to encourage our viewing audience, please, if you're not in Athens, Ohio, I'll say, okay, you can donate it to your local high school, wherever you are living, or whatever country, because we do have people that watch this via the internet that are in other countries. So if people in other countries are watching it. What does your country do? What is the cultural practice there? You can give us that information. I would love to learn. So I'm going to give you the contact information for Sojourners Along the Way. That's Sojourners Along the Way. Best one that I love people to use is Sojourners, SOJOURNERS, the number 3, .tv @gmail.com. The phone number would be 740-592-2529. Or if you like the physical address, you can mail, or you can also come in person once you set up an appointment. But that address is Sojourners Along the Way, care of Access TV, 507 Richland Avenue, Suite 100, Athens, ATHENS, Ohio, 45701. Love to hear from the viewing audience, and I'd love to hear you say how much you have learned from a teenager, are learning, because we're not done yet. I know you have a couple of more posters, so does one of them fit what you were just saying?
Yes, I have a poster that has diagrams of the bio urns themselves and the bio Urn Cube. So this is it. And in the bottom left, we have a kit from the Living Urn Company where you get the sapling, you get mulch, nutrient-rich soil, and a really classy case for the bio urn itself, which you could have, a funeral, if you really wanted a funeral where family gathered and could witness it. You could have this on display, and it would be very classy and a less, painful experience for everyone involved. And up in the top left, we have the other company, Bio Urn. And this is their model of the bio urn. And you can see how the roots will go through the ashes and the dirt, and the seed goes on top. In the middle, on the bottom, is what the Living Urn bio urn is made up out of. There's wood chips on the top, premium soil mix in the middle, and then the ash neutralizing agent, which is what's going to allow your ashes to really be mixed with the rest of your soil and the seed. And now up on the right, in the top and in the bottom, this is the example of the Bio Urn Cube, which is much taller, can be inside typically, and this is the one that will give you text alerts on to really ensure that your sapling has everything it needs to survive as much as possible.
But when you said that, that was the other thing I thought, that would be so much fun, because then you can be experiencing your loved one and it's still part of your life. Now, wouldn't that be much better than just having a box that's put into the ground and it's, I'm going to say it this way, it's destroying our environment? If you use a plastic casket, that's toxic waste. It's okay I say it that way, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. That means it's not helping our environment, it's destroying our environment. If you use metal, how long does it take for metal? I'm not really asking you this question, but I want you to think about it. How long does it take metal to decompose? Does metal decompose? And mentioning the metals, no, they do not decompose. It's been very interesting. I grew up in New Jersey. You've heard me say that before. Used to take the ferry from New Jersey to New York, going right past the Statue of Liberty. Never gave it a thought that that had been made out of metal. How long ago did France give that to the United States as a gift? That's a good trivia question. Study your history and find out about the United States of America, please. So, metal does not decompose. How much of our land, and I'm not going to ask that to you, but we did. We have some information for you that I can say I'm not really happy about, but cemeteries take up a lot of space.
They do. In Athens County alone, Athens County is about 508 square miles, and there's approximately 104 cemeteries in Athens County alone. Also, in Brooklyn, there is a cemetery that is 478 acres, but that's not the only cemetery in Brooklyn. Just Brooklyn, 478 acres are taken up by cemeteries.
No, that's one cemetery. That's not counting all the others. Now, wherever you live, check it out. Find out how much of the land in your county, prefecture, I'm trying to remember what some other countries call the things, prefecture, oh dear, this is terrible. I worked in China for a long time, I should remember. But anyway, their areas too. The whole world. But we're going to focus on the United States because this is for her science project, not just for it's not the world. We're going to focus here, right, in the United States. And we did make it very particular to Athens. I was shocked when I was told that there's 508 acres, right? Square miles. That's really not a lot. But how many cemeteries?
We have 104 cemeteries, about.
104. I mean, I don't care if they're just little family plots or not. That's a lot of cemeteries. And some of them are big.
And that's land that can't be used for anything other than a cemetery because the bodies aren't disappearing. They're staying there, which means that all of that space, it can never be reused for more greener things like vegetation.
Yeah. I'm going to pull up your poster board here again because I want to encourage our viewing audience, especially now that I know what it is, this one, because this is the one that can talk to you. I think that would be so fun. It would be like having your family member. I'm going to move it over. Okay, how can I keep it in camera? Where do I need to go?
I can hold it and hold it this way.
But I want you to be in the picture.
Okay.
Okay, because I was wanting you to reiterate some of the things because we had the opportunity after this was already on camera. I'll put in a plug. There's a preschool in this building also, and we happened to be recording at the time that they were being released, so we stopped recording so you would not be hearing the children in the background. So we were talking, we being Alison and I, and her mom, and then Matt got in because he gave us some good insights on some things. But on some of these pictures that we have, so Alison, would you explain what you were saying off camera? And I'll point if you tell me which one to point to.
Okay, so the Living Urn Company in the bottom.
This one.
That.
And do you know the website for that?
Yes, it's just www.livingurn.com.
Okay. And what about this?
That is the model, the one that can be planted. It's what the bottom and the top actually are both the kind that you don't even need all of the ashes for. So if you wanted to plant it on your land, but you move away, you can keep half of the ashes out, and once you move away, you can replant a new tree, or you can spread the ashes within your family, and they each get their own tree to plant to have a living memory of a loved one. Like the Bio Urn Cube, which is the more advanced one that gives you text alerts and information about your plant as it grows. That is the one that, once again, it doesn't need all of the ashes. That one's a little bit more expensive than the other ones, but it's just a personal preference of whether you want to be truly a part of the process of the growth of the tree or not.
And I'm going to jump in because we did talk about that a little bit. that the expense of something like that is around approximately, please don't hold us to this, but approximately like $500. And then you have something living. Compare that to, you said that the higher end level of a casket was how much money?
It could be anywhere from 10,000 and up.
10,000 and up. I would rather go for, and I just hit my microphone. I would like to go for the $500 and to have something living. I think that would be tremendous. And again, I'll put in a plug. Take the rest of the money that a typical burial would cost, how many thousands of dollars, and donate the money to a school. Being an educator, a school. You want to donate it to a hospital, to some charity, fine, you choose. But it can be done in memory of the person that has passed on. But as an educator, I would like you to do that for the schools. Our schools are always needing more money, and they could always, particularly in science, please, please. I was appalled when I saw that on the college level, we were importing people from other countries to teach our science and math classes. So I'm going to put in a plug. We need our kids to be learning science and math. And since this is a science project for Alison, I'm going to really put in a plug. Please help our science classes. And please, viewing audience, if you don't live in Athens County, that's okay. You can still make a donation to the schools in Athens County, and that would be marvelous. I like doing that. So where to from here?
Well, even if you lose a beloved pet or anything of the sort,
yeah,
you can also get a Bio Urn for them as well. So you'll definitely have a permanent marker for them that's living, and it's definitely a softer form of mourning compared to what I think is almost even more morbid, you know, an empty field with just stone slabs sticking out of the ground. That's almost more painful to look at as like concrete, they're gone forever, than it is to look at, you know, beautiful forests and places that are just bursting with even more life in commemoration of a loved one. And wouldn't you prefer to have your own family after you pass being welcomed to a greener and healthier place than to mourn you than just a terrible and concrete place?
I agree. Well, we've already mentioned the brochure, but Alison, I think it would be nice to convince our viewing audience that they want to go to the library to get the complete pamphlet and read what you wrote. So why don't you give them a tease about what's in it, okay?
Okay. So the main topics that I discuss are just an introduction, a quick introduction, and then what happens to a body when it's buried, and how, you know, it is terrible, and what happens to, you know, the earth around it, and what chemicals are added, and how long it takes to decompose. And then
We'll go into some details, okay? Because you did say, and I'm not going to read the whole thing because you are, the chemicals added into the body include, you did mention, I think, just one of those, but go ahead.
They include formaldehyde, glutaraldehyde, and methanol. And then I go on to say, you know, an embalmed body does not disappear, and there have been multiple cases where an embalmed body has even been dug up to be moved, or whatever the reason may have been, and it's intact. You know, the features are recognizable. I'm not sure if this one was accurate, but I did quickly read over where Abraham Lincoln's body had to be moved because they were worried it was going to be stolen, and it was 20, 30 years after the fact he had been buried, and he was still completely, like, recognizable. And, you know, I imagine that wasn't very comforting to open his burial site and to see him just laying there. I'm sure that wasn't a very fun experience. And I don't imagine, it is a very comforting thought at all to anyone out there to think that your body is going to be down there still forever, because it won't disappear. It won't become, new life, new matter. It's going to stay in the same state forever, which is an incredibly disconcerting thought.
Yeah. Well, and the proof, the documentation of that would be this little 2-year-old that you were talking about 100 years later. And also I mentioned the guys in Vietnam. And don't forget the Twinkies.
Right.
Please. We are putting so many preservatives into our bodies. I don't know that people will need to be embalmed nowadays because we have enough preservatives in us, unless, of course, you're eating a plant-based, like you have a plant-based lifestyle, which I plug for that, for good health. So we need to be reconsidering a lot of things regarding what we do after people die. What else do you have in here? We don't want to tell you everything that's in here because we want you to get it. I mean, that is a beautiful, beautiful brochure. And I want to encourage people, go ahead and get it. Tell them you want to get the brochure that you saw on Sojourners Along the Way program, where Alison, a 10th grader from the Athens High School, was talking about something about, what was it called? And then you're going to all of a sudden remember Bio Urn. That's B-I-O-U-R. Let's see how you, oh, you have an S on the end. It's like that's too many letters. U-R-N, okay? Bio. Where does bio come from?
Life.
Yes. Okay. Life. Isn't that great?
Mm-hmm.
Doing a living thing, a bio urn. And you can picture the urn, right? Didn't something come to your mind when you heard that word? So we want you to do a bio urn. What would you like, what else would you like to say about your brochure?
Well, on the next page, I go into detail about the running out of space for our deceased. And I go into, prices, about what a coffin might cost. And what that means for cities and the forests. And I also talk about the product Living Urn, which is the one that does not offer the Bio Urn Cube, like the second website, which was Bio. And then on the back, I have...
Wait, before you go on, how do you spell that? So that way our viewing audience that doesn't get to go get a brochure, they'll know how to find it online, because we do have some computer savvy people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that is spelled U-R-N-A-B-I-O. U-R-N-A-B-I-O. Yes, that's
very
right.
Good. So you have 2 websites that you can go to, and there are probably more.
Yes, there are plenty. All you have just type in a Google search for Bio Urn, and you'll get a list of websites, incredible sources where you can purchase, you can do more research for yourself, and I'm positive quite a few websites even have a pre-planning where you can order it way ahead of time, like a will, and they will send it after your death or the death of a loved one.
Okay, then I have to ask you, since there are so many different websites out there, why did you choose these 2?
I choose these 2 because their websites seemed very clear-cut. It was very easy to find it was very easy to see diagrams of their models. It was very easy to find out the prices. They were also very welcoming in their formatting. It was very easy. I contacted the Living Urn company, and I told them that I was doing a project, and I asked them, if they had any advertisement things they would want to send me to talk about specifically. And they were very, kind and welcoming to me when they replied saying, they would love to help out and that they are also passionate about the environment. It's unfortunate that we just couldn't get the materials on time.
That's sad.
Yes, but they're very open and kind people behind both websites. And I find that these are very credible sources to go to as well.
I like that. I'm impressed. How old are you?
I'm 15.
I never ask a female that question. Actually, I don't ask guys that question either. But I want our viewing audience to see. Say that again.
I am 15 years old.
15 years old and a sophomore at Athens High School. And I do say I think you are well advanced in what you are doing and the information that you have. Help your passion to be felt by our viewing audience. Yes, you had to do this as an assignment, and so you did an assignment, but I just feel so much passion coming from you about this, that it's not just an assignment you were doing. This went deeper than just an assignment. Why?
Well, it's very fortunate that I have a wonderful teacher and a wonderful science program at my school that lets people be passionate about what they're doing. It's not all, they don't assign you a project that has all of it lined out for you that you have to do. We were given free rein over whatever we wanted to do as long as it had a direct effect on the environment. I had previously known about bio urns and was previously interested in them, and the idea that I get to be graded and my research matters directly to, you know, my grade and everything was just a wonderful bonus, that I would get even more feedback from my teacher about all of the information I gather, if it's you know, accurate, and just more information. Like she sat down with me multiple times to work me through and to help me find, you know, credible sources. And I'm very fortunate that I could be passionate about my topic.
I like that. I really do. And I thought of something and I just lost it. But I will say, that's the kind of thing I want to see happening in our schools today. I am very concerned. I am about the educational system of what's happening in this country, and it does excite me. It does, that we have a 15-year-old that loves to learn, I can tell that, and is doing it. I don't think your mom had to keep after you. Are you doing your project? Are you getting it done? I mean, right now, this is more than a week, almost a week ahead. This recording is being done almost a week ahead of when Alison's project is due. So that means she had to do all this work prior to the recording of this program. And you know that's not typical for students, high school students, to get projects done way ahead of time. So I applaud you for that too. And I hope you'll stay that way. And you'll continue on, you'll go to college, and you'll go into science. I don't know what you wanted to, but I would love to encourage you along that. Do you have ideas about what you want to do after you graduate high school and going into college? That wasn't part of what this program was supposed to be about, but I'm an educator and I'm always interested in that.
I got big ideas, too many. I can't, it's hard to narrow them down right now because I'm so happy in all of my classes. I'm in the correct placements. I'm doing, you know, interesting things in all of my classes, so everything interests me right now. But I definitely have always had a passion and an interest in the sciences. And I think I'm definitely going to have to look into continuing that out after high school, because I always have a lot more fun in the learning process during science. And I'm always, you know, trying to learn more about every topic that I do in science. So I'm definitely very happy with where the path that I'm on in terms of academics. So I feel that I have a lot of options ahead of me, and it's hard to choose one right now.
And you don't have to choose one right now. Now, I know, and I think it's tremendous, that Ohio University, which is in Athens, Ohio, which happens to be my alma mater 3 times, and it's where my body is being donated. I wanted that plug in there too. But I know they have a program that while students are still in high school, you can take classes, and you're nodding your head yes, so that means you're aware of that.
Yes.
So the second question is, what are you going to do?
I do plan. It's a program called CC Plus, College Credit Plus, and I am going to be applying for it this year to hopefully take a couple classes at OU next year, my junior year of high school.
I highly want to encourage you, go for it. Take as many classes as you can while you're still in high school, because that means you'll have less to do when you go to college, and also it'll cost a lot less money. So I think it's a win-win-win situation. Okay, Allison, you have another poster over there. I really, really, really want you to tell us about that poster, please, because it's a beautiful poster.
Okay, so on this poster, I have quite a few pictures of plant life and beautiful, elaborate trees that grow very big, and I'm using this as a example of what you could have for a bio urn. In the top left, you have these beautiful Japanese cherry blossoms in a path going through, and it's easy to imagine, you know, a plaque or something next to them, and showing an example of what a bio urn cemetery could look like, which is clearly very different from the first poster, which had a cemetery that, you know, could be mistaken for an actual city. It's so large.
And was, because really, I thought that was the city. I hate to admit it, but I didn't see a cemetery. I saw buildings. So, you could have a little plaque which would not disintegrate, decompose, so it would be a living memorial. And I like that. I think that would be tremendous and beautiful. Go ahead.
Well, you know, you can, the bio urns, they don't have a specific kind of tree or even plant that you have to have. So if you have, you know, a tree like, when I was young, I grew up around dogwood trees my whole life. I love the smell. They mean a lot to me. They meant a lot to, you know, my loved ones. Maybe you can choose that tree specifically for your bio urn. You can, you know, choose, you know, weeping willows, which are, you know, very beautiful and graceful looking trees to have. And you can...
And that would also be appropriate because it's called a weeping willow, so it's crying. But it's also rejoicing because of the death of the loved one, but it'll be weeping all the time. But it'll also be beautiful, which would be a wonderful combination.
And you don't even have to have a tree. If there's, you know, a certain plant or flowering like bush or whatever you would want, you could have those as well. In the middle, on the bottom, we have this this flowering plant that's very short and can be placed right on, you know, a porch. And you could always have them with you, always a beautiful, you know, blooming example of a life. You can place them anywhere, and they could be whatever type of plant that you would like.
And they're very beautiful. I love it. I think it would be tremendous. So I'm hoping, in my case, being a body donor, that after they're done, because Ohio University, and I think other universities too, so if you're not in Athens, wherever you are, check it out, because they will use it being the body, to help train future doctors. And wouldn't it be nice to have doctors who are well trained, equipped, prepared to be your doctor? And then after that, if it's possible, to be part of a bio urn. I think that would be the best combination. And Ohio University pays for the cremation. So don't even have to pay for that. I like that. I like that.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to think about the next generations and the generations after that and everyone in your family and who will become your family once they're born. We need to leave behind a world that is healthy and safe for them to grow and mature in, because the way that the planet and the environment is doing now, it's declining in quality and everything. So this, is just a Bio Urn is a very small way you can help with a direct effect on how the quality will be for future generations.
I want to applaud you. I am very, very excited by what you have done for your project, but more than that, I applaud you for your thinking and for looking ahead to the future generations. So, with the time that we have left, is there something that has not been said that you would like to say, or something that you would like to really emphasize?
Well, I'd like to emphasize that a Bio Urn is once again, a very small way that will have a direct effect. And everyone needs to do this, everyone needs to participate. This isn't something that small, localized communities only should do. I think that this should be a very widely known thing, which is, my project specifically is to raise awareness about the Bio Urn, because I've talked to many people, my teachers, everyone, and I've explained what the Bio Urn is, and they don't even know it existed. But once they do know, they're very interested, and they even consider it for themselves. So I think that certainly the Bio Urn is a much better alternative to a traditional burial. So, but I also encourage everyone to do their own research for themselves about what happens to a body when it's buried traditionally, and what the effects of that would mean for the environment. Because people just aren't paying attention, because it is affecting everything. It is in the negative. So I definitely encourage people to research and to consider the Bio Urn for themselves very much.
I say great. And I'm going to make an offer. I did not ask Alison about this, but if you are not in Athens County and do not have the ability to go to one of the local libraries, if you send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Sojourners Along the Way, 507 Richland Avenue, Suite 100, Athens, Ohio, I will make sure that you can get a copy of Alison's brochure. Okay? Would you like to do that? I hope you will. Maybe we can also post it online. Matt, when you say that, you mean on this program, or do you mean that a link to it? Okay, so a link. Alison, thank you so much. I am so thankful for being able to do this program. I'm excited about it, and you have to let me know what kind of grade you get.
Okay, I will indeed.
Okay.